Hey everybody, we are live for Let's Talk Sex Tuesday. A new edition. It's November. I've moved the time to 11:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time just because it seems like more of you are online in the mornings. And I'm only going to be doing them on Instagram. I will save them to IGTV and potentially to my Facebook page as well as my YouTube. So you can find them in lots of different places. But you can catch them live and be part of the Q&A here, which is awesome. So today we are talking about brain gremlins. I've been getting lots of questions about this, lots of requests to talk about it more. So I want to talk a little bit about what brain gremlins are, in particular your sexual brain gremlins, and how, excuse me, I just started to eat some lunch, how to tackle them. So I don't even know how I heard of the term brain gremlins. The way it was introduced to me, or the way I remember the mental picture that really stuck in my head is, now it's taking me back to the memory. Okay. At this conference that I was at like 8 years ago, is this idea that, we all have this sort of like intuitive inner voice. It's usually a quiet whisper. It's definitely how it shows up for me. That's telling me like what would be good for me right now, what I'm eating, what I should do. And then we have this little gremlin, or several gremlins, and they sit on our shoulder and they natter judgment and criticism and fear at us. So this might look like you have a little quiet whisper in your body that's like, I'm kind of feeling in the mood today. This happened to me the other day. I'm kind of feeling in the mood right now. I went to bed without wearing any underwear. I'm kind of feeling like I could maybe be in the mood. And then the nattering voices are going, the baby's right next door and she might wake up. Your partner's probably too tired anyways. Oh, it's going to be so much effort to do anything. You're so fat, sex is shitty these days anyway, so like, why even bother? All of these kind of like negative brain gremlins. They're literally little gremlins. They sit on your shoulder and they try to talk you out of the things that your intuition is looking for. So telling the difference between your brain gremlins and like a good, healthy limitation is always kind of the hard work. But your brain gremlins usually show up quite forcefully and quite loud, and usually in the like very hyper negative and often the over exaggerated hyper negative. So some of the times the things they say are not true, or you don't actually know them to be true. So if I take my example from the other night, I thought my partner might be too tired to do something, but I didn't actually know that for a fact. And I could guess that and tune out and tone down my request, or I could turn to my partner and go, hey, I'm kind of feeling a little spicy. Are you? And I could leave it up to him to tell me whether or not he's feeling in the mood instead of guessing for him. My brain gremlin was telling me it was going to be too much effort. Well, it actually turned out that because my body was requesting this, because my body was saying that she might be open to it right now, it was relatively easy to get going and get in the mood. It might have been true at a different time if I was highly stressed and not feeling ready, that it would have been like getting a freight train going, but that wasn't the case that time. So again, true, not true, wasn't true in that scenario. Am I too fat to be having sex? No. Am I too ugly, too cellulite, too like whatever my brain judgment-y piece wants to give into me? No. BS on that, right? So this is kind of the process that we need to go through in terms of identifying what those little gremlins are that are yelling at us, and then going through a little process of punting them off the shoulder one by one. And sometimes we punt them off the shoulder. We say, that's not true. You need to go away. You're not being helpful. Thank you very much. Piss off. And sometimes we might go, oh, valid point. Okay, yeah, that feels relatively true. And yeah, I'm sitting with that. And then we get to decide, and we can say, hey, little Mr. Brain Gremlin, I know you're trying to keep me safe right now. I know you're trying to keep me in a good place. But I think I need to take a risk in this moment, even if it's just a small one. So you're doing a really great job. In fact, you've been working hard. You've even been doing overtime lately. So why don't you go take a vacation, head to Miami, head to Hawaii, head to Australia, do your thing, just relax. We are okay here. We have got this. And we are going to move forward with whatever little risk we want to take. That little risk might be talking to your partner about sex. That little risk might be trying something new. That risk might be initiating sex, especially if you never do, right? Who knows what that little risk is? But sometimes we can tell our brain gremlins to fuck off, pardon my French, and sometimes we can say, hey, you've been doing a great job, but you can take a break right now. I got this. I'm okay. I don't need your help. Head off on holidays. We are all good here. So how do we kind of do that, right? Brain gremlins are basically all these negative voices that come up. And if you've watched my spectatoring video, it's a lot of that, right? When we're stuck in our head with the brain gremlins talking at us, and they might be sex related, they might be body related, they might just be stress related, thinking about all the laundry and the dirty dishes and all that stuff. They might be things like, you don't deserve to have sex. Who are you to get pleasure? You're indulgent. You're being a princess. You're too demanding. Like, only other people get to have sex. Like, you don't get to have sex. You don't get to have pleasure. It can show up in so many different ways. If you're here live, I'd love to hear if you have any brain gremlins that you would love to share that have showed up for you. Or you can share in the replay too. You can share a comment. So all these negative judgy voices, right? So how do we do this? And what does it look like in the moment versus ahead of time in terms of dealing with them? So there's two ways you can kind of manage your brain gremlins, and it's probably a combination of both, not really an either or situation. So the first way is to work at proactively decreasing those brain gremlins by working with them kind of ahead of time. And for me, what that looks like is journaling or talking things out with my partner and just writing down every single brain gremlin. And I can do it based on like thinking back to the last time I tried to have sex or thinking back to the last time I was having sex and just think about what was going on in my mind, what were all the things that were shutting me down. Or I could think forward to what would happen if I were to try to have sex right now and see what brain gremlins kick in for you. So you want to try to activate your brain gremlins by either recalling a memory of a time where they were very active for you or trying to think forward so that they sort of engage for you. Now, sometimes there can be so many brain gremlins at once that it just feels like this massive wall and we can't even hear each individual thought. There's just like a big sort of uncomfortableness hitting us. So when that happens, whether we're feeling that wall or whether we're just inviting that memory or that experience, we just want to slow down, take a deep breath, and see if we can hear each brain gremlin one by one. And I like to write them down. It's helpful for me because it helps me once I get it out of my head, I can look at it and half the time I can look at it and go, well, that's stupid. But when it's in my brain, it's like legitimate and real, right? So write them each down. Write them down as full, complete thoughts. I'm not sexy enough. My partner's going to hate my body. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel super uncomfortable. I don't have any mojo anymore. It's going to be too much effort. Like whatever those negative brain gremlins are, I want you to write them all down. Okay, that's the first step. That's part of the proactive piece. So we're not having sex right now. We're just conjuring a scenario in our minds and we're seeing which brain gremlins come up. Then you can ask yourself a couple questions as you go through the list. So the first thing is to just read through the list and ask yourself if you can look at any of them and go, yeah, that's totally stupid. Knock it off the list. Thank you. Bye-bye. Or bye, Felicia, right? The other thing you can do is ask yourself if each one is true or not. So again, is it true that your partner doesn't want to have sex with you right now or that he's too tired? Or do you just think that? Are you just assuming that, right? Where are you jumping to conclusions or where are things just simply not factual? It's like saying, if you're in business, being like, I'm not experienced, and then being like, well, is it factual that you're not experienced? Like, have you literally not done this thing very much? Or haven't you been doing it for a long time and you're just not giving yourself the credit, right? The other way to look at is to look through and be like, do I want to believe these things? Like, yes, maybe I feel like bloated and kind of not sexy, but do I want to let that hold me back? Maybe today the answer is yes, and that's okay. And maybe the answer is like, hell no, I'm not going to let that hold me back. And maybe, if fatigue and exhaustion are part of my brain gremlins, maybe having some sex or masturbating or having some sexual pleasure will relax me and give me some good yummy hormones and help me to de-stress. So maybe I'm going to choose not to believe that today, and I'm going to choose to believe something else. I'm going to choose to believe that sex could actually solve or support my stress instead of thinking that it's going to add to it. Now, it's totally you do you. Like, whatever's going to feel right. This is about listening to that whisper, right? Because she's going to have things to say about these brain gremlins as well. And her voice is very powerful. And the last piece is to ask yourself, well, like, if these things are actually real, if they are valid, are you okay with them being valid? Do you want them to be a reason that you don't go forward today, that you don't think about things in a certain way today? Or are you willing to let them go, think about them differently, reframe them in the positive and turn them into an affirmation? So instead of like, I'm not sexy and I don't deserve pleasure, you could reframe that to like, I am a total sex magnet and I deserve all the yummy pleasure in the world because I'm an amazing woman, right? So you could flip all of those negatives into positives. So that's one way to work with your brain gremlins, is sort of on a proactive basis where you're kind of journaling or reflecting, you're speaking them out loud, getting them out of your head so that you can see how ridiculous some of them are, how unfactual some of them are, or how valid some of them are, but they're valid, but you still are choosing maybe to make a different choice than normal, right? So believing those brain gremlins is leading you to one outcome. So maybe you could ask yourself what outcome might be possible if you ask your brain gremlins to go on vacation today and see what happens with that. I got lots of fluctuating sunshine today and it's cold where I am, so I'm wearing all my warm clothes. So how do we deal with brain gremlins in the moment, right? You're with your partner, maybe they're making a move and you're like, blah! Or maybe you're in the moment and things are happening and then blah, 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 your brain gremlins show up. What do you do then? So I basically encourage people, you can do two things, right? You can try to recreate the sort of journal process in your head and just sort of quickly. And the more actually you practice the journal process, the more quickly you're going to be able to like dismiss those brain gremlins. So you're making love to your partner, all these things are coming up. You can, in your own mind, take the negative, reframe it into a positive. If you watch my spectatoring video on my YouTube channel, I totally had a moment where I was feeling not sexy, and instead I turned it around and I just said the opposite to myself over and over and over. So I'm making love to my partner. He has no idea that this mental process is going on for me, but I identified that I was not feeling sexy. I decided to change that into a positive. And while we were making love in my own head, I'm going, you're so sexy, you're so hot, yeah. And I'm telling myself all this positive stuff, and I was able to get rid of that brain gremlin and really feel into that sexy energy in that moment. That really worked for me, which was awesome. So you can keep the whole process to yourself and just do it in your brain. You can do the affirmations. You can flick your brain gremlin away. You can say, I'm not going to follow into this. That's one way to do it. The one thing about that is if it's not happening super quickly, it's keeping you in your head, which is keeping you disconnected from your partner, which is not usually a recipe for great sex, right? So the other way to do it is to hit the like pause button or the slow motion button with your partner. And you can do one of two things. You can disclose what's going on for you in your head and have them walk you through it. Or you can just ask for a bit of a like body reset where maybe you change the music, take a deep breath together and kind of get retuned into your body away from those brain gremlins so you can kind of reset and move forward. My favorite tool, although it can certainly feel like the scariest, is actually hit the pause button, especially if your partner made a move and then you rebuffed them and then they're like, ugh. is actually communicate what's happening for you in your mind. So our partners often don't know what's going on for us. In particular, I don't want to, well, yeah, our partners don't know what's going on for us. And I certainly have had the feedback from my partner many times where I share with him the mental processes that are happening with me during sex. And he's like, oh my God, like I have no idea on the outside that that's what you're going through. And that is just so not my experience during sex. So let's say your partner makes a move, you kind of rebuff them. You could say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm just going to hit the pause slow motion button. Can I share with you kind of what's going on in my mind? And then you could say, hey, this is what's going on in my mind. I would love to connect with you right now. I'm feeling too tired to go down on you and do full intercourse, but I might be interested in you going down on me and seeing what would happen. Or, hey, I'm feeling stressed about my vagina because I haven't shaved it and my legs are dirty and I'm just feeling gross, right? Then you give your partner an opportunity to do a couple of things. He might just say, or they might just say, you're so stunning and I don't give a shit about your hairy legs and your hairy pussy. Like, let's just do this. And that might be enough for you and you might feel great. Or your partner might say, hey, we've got a few minutes. Like, why don't we go have a shower together? We can shave you up, make you feeling all nice and clean and spicy. And maybe that will help. So you guys can troubleshoot solutions together, and your partner can give you a new perspective on your brain gremlins and what's happening for you. Maybe your partner's making a move and you're like, I'm really angry at you right now and I can't move forward with this until I feel better. Can we watch a movie? Can we have a tickle fight? Can we laugh together before we try and make love? If it's in the middle of lovemaking, I know that people are so petrified of like hitting the scratch record and like interrupting the whole situation and ending it all. And this is what I want to say. If you are stuck in your head, visiting with your brain gremlins, you are not in the moment with your partner. You're not having great sex. They're not having a great time either. Like, it might look like it and y'all are faking it on the outside, but like nobody's having the truly good time they want to be having. So you might feel like interrupting the flow to have a dialogue is not going to be the most successful thing. However, I would invite you to consider that stopping the flow to share what's going on in your mind might be just a quick thing, and then all of a sudden you're fixed and you get to dive right back in, and then you're having a way better time. Or it might mean you don't end your sexy time, but you divert into this very meaningful, connected conversation where you're getting vulnerable. Maybe they get vulnerable back and say, hey, yeah, I can tell when you go in that place in your mind and it's hard for me and I don't know how to get you out of it. Can we talk together about how we can do that? So when you can share in those moments, I need you to go to the left, or I'm really worried that this is going to happen, or I'm feeling all of these things. Can you help me? Then you can come up with solutions, whether they be putting a lock on the door so you're not afraid that the kids walk in, or your partner telling you that you're just beautiful and amazing as you are and giving you more verbal affirmations that maybe you needed. That's how we get solutions and we get creative, and that's how we get vulnerable and intimate. And I say all the time that great sex is not about penises and vaginas. It is about pleasure and vulnerability and tuning into those two things. So that is my share on brain gremlins today. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the comments. You can always DM me. This is all about noticing those pesky little brain gremlins, finding out which ones you can punt away, which ones you're going to send on holiday, and you can do that with sort of regular journaling and connecting with yourself, or you can do that in the moment, live and in real time with yourself and your own brain, or you can get real next level vulnerable and share with your partner what's going on so that you can create together the sex life that you're looking to have. That is your Let's Talk Sex Tuesday today. I will catch you next week, Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I hope everyone has a lovely week. Bye.